Okay, so now that everything is in place, I have painted over the duct tape on the inside so that it's completely black also. So there won't be any light bouncing around inside of this. It'll be very light safe once we seal it up. I'm going to explain just why it is important to keep it completely light proof. This is a negative that I made using a similar pinhole camera. It's inverted, so it's got the blacks and the whites opposite the way that they should be, and that's because the way the light shines on this paper, it sort of, you can think of it as like burning the paper where the light hits with this light sensitive paper. It doesn't actually do that, but it's just the way that the chemicals on the paper react to light. So the whiter parts are where blacks are going to be, and the darker parts are where the lights are going to be. And this I exposed around for 5 minutes with this sort of pinhole camera. That'll be the amount of time that I took. Your camera that you build will obviously have a different time. The amounts of time will vary for each and every camera that you make. And so that is a good example of a negative because it's all in focus. There is a good amount of black versus white. There's a good balance. This is not a good negative, and it's very underexposed. It was not exposed long enough to let the blacks and the shadows really come through. And also these markings right here, this is where there were light leaks, and so the extra light that came from the corners of the camera came and reacted with the paper right here, and so it does not look good on your photograph. So bad example, don't do that. I exposed this, and you can see the finished product of that. So you can see it's been inverted. So this is the right way, and the blacks and the whites are the way that they should be. And so you have to do this at a photography lab, or if you have a developing process nearby, you can make these right here. But this tutorial is mostly focusing on just how to build your pinhole camera, so you can get to that point. So now that everything is all blacked out, I'm going to use this just as an example. You can fit it inside. Mine is cut to the size of the box. Yours might not be. You might have to seal it down with some tape on the back side or some sticky stuff on the back side. Hopefully nothing on top of it, because that could interfere with the edges. But once you have it resting inside and as centered as possible, you can go ahead and put on the lid. And so I've blacked out along here. So really my concern is going to be where this kind of bows in a little bit, and then also kind of around the corners. So I've cut some duct tape out, and you want to really make sure while you're putting on your tape. You can also use black electrical tape. I just am using this duct tape that I have because I have it on hand. You can basically build a pinhole camera with a lot of materials that you have on hand. It's really convenient that way. And so I'm just making sure that I've got the creases really nice, and the corners I'm going to overlap with more duct tape. So, and of course, you will be doing this in a dark room. You do not want your light sensitive paper to be exposed to any light before you put it in your camera. So this is just a practice situation of me sealing up a camera. But if you were going to actually take a photo with this camera, you'd be doing this in a dark room. I would go into my bathroom because there's no windows in there, and there's a tiny bit of light coming out from underneath the door, and that way I can still sort of see what's going on, but the light itself won't hurt the paper. Any bit of light, you need to be really careful. And not every pinhole camera works with, or you don't have to use light sensitive paper to take your image. You can also use film, but for the process that I know how to do, it is the light sensitive paper kind. So Now that I have this all sealed and the edges are nice, my pinhole camera is ready to take a picture, so I can go and set it up somewhere, and whatever object is right here, it's going to basically go through, the light is going to go through the pinhole and hit kind of the opposite of where it's going to be. So if I have, let's say I have this roll of duct tape right here. If the top corner of this duct tape, you would imagine in your original photo it's going to be on this side, but really the light passes through the pinhole and hits diagonally the other side and down. So also with the size of the pinhole, I was going to explain a little bit more about that. The larger the size of the pinhole, the more light it lets in, but also the less focused, the less precise your image is going to be. And so I personally prefer the smaller pinhole, and that's why I use the smaller needle, because it will give me clearer and more focused images, but it will also take me longer.